Everyone, welcome back. In the last session, we discussed about core data services. What are the features of core data services? What are general and enhanced features of core data services? And some advanced concepts of core data services. How we will consume CDS views in SAP HANA. So where CDS views are useful and the flexibility of CDS in S4 HANA. So enhanced capabilities of view capabilities we have discussed in the last session. Now we will be discussing Unit 7, taking ABAP to SAP HANA. So in this unit, I will be discussing how to access SAP HANA database by using OpenSQL and a secondary database connection. So here I have a system, ABAP system. Suppose if I open this system, ECC system, so I will just open my ECC system. This ECC system is connected to uh, MySQL database connection as a primary database. So I will just logging to the system. I will show you which database system is the primary database system here. So I'm going to system and I will be showing you the status of my ECC system here. So if you see the ECC system here, the primary database of this system is MySQL. So if you have secondary database connection as HANA for your ABAP system, how you will access this? You will be seeing this in the exercise here. So I will be showing an exercise how to access the secondary DB connection. So to access a secondary DB connection, you will be you should go to a transition called DBA cockpit. So DBA cockpit is a transition. So if you go to DBA cockpit, it's already there in my favorites. I'm clicking in the transition. So DBA cockpit is a transition. So in the DBA cockpit transition, if you go to DBA system landscape, which is shown on the left hand side, there is a database connection tab. So in this database connection tabs, you will be able to see what are the HANA systems connected to your primary database. So this, if you see, these are the HANA systems which is connected to this EC7800 system. These are the HANA database systems connected. So you can test this HANA systems which are working properly and which are not working properly. If connection test, if you do for this system, if these systems are working properly, then you will be able to use these systems. Otherwise, you cannot use these systems. So I will take one system and I will run for you. So I'll just open this system. I will do a connection test. So as soon as when you click on this test button, so Shift F1, so it will be you will get an message if it's executed successfully, connection executed successfully. So I'm clicking on F8. If you see error, connection failed, so that means that GR9 HANA is the connection system, the connection DB connection HANA connection is not successful here. So it returned an error, connection failed. So I will go to any one of the HANA database system which has connected properly. So if you see, this is connection name 004RR HANA database. So if you see, this is my username. This username which is displaying for this connection was the DB user, database user. So from with this user, I will be able to access in the HANA system. This is the connection parameters. This is nothing but your host name. So database host name is HANA system and the port name is 31015. So I will be executing this system and test whether it is successfully connecting to the connection. If you see, the message database connection was successful. So that means that the connection, database connection, this is successful. So I executed using the test connection. So I can use this HANA system to access the tables which are present with this user. So I will be able to access this in ABAP server. So you should remind that when I will be able to connect to any HANA system. So if that connection was this one, this connection name with this one, if the database user is SLT, so with this user, if there are any tables associated, only those users, those tables only can be accessed in the ABAP with the select query. So I will be connecting to, I will be going to HANA system. So I went to this HANA system here. So this is a HANA studio. So I went to this HANA studio using a remote desktop. So, so I connected using remote desktop. Now currently if you see in system HANA modular perspective. So in HANA modular perspective, I'm just opening you catalog. So they already explained in the in unit 2. So Unit 1, Introduction to HANA Studio, there I explained about catalog content and security and all other users. So if you go to catalog, you will be able to see which are the users connected to this catalog. So if you see, these are the schemas connected to this catalog, and these will be the database users connected to this catalog. So if you see in this catalog, if you see SLT underscore EC7, so this is one of the user. So this user is connected. If you see, this is the database user for this connection name. So this user will be having some of the that tables or views are associated with it. So in this SLT underscore EC7, if you go to tables, I am able to see some of the tables associated with this. So these tables only I will be able to access in ABAP. Since this connection was successful from my ABAP NetWeaver 7.4 system as a HANA as a secondary database. So these tables are only, with this user only I will be able to access this. So for example, if I go to this mark table, this is material table. So if you see material number, these all tables were there. So if I preview the data for this table, so I can right click on this Merc and then MARC table and open a data preview. So if you see, I will be able to see the data for this table. So in the same way, how I will access this mark table with SLT EC7 with HANA database connection as 444RR, I should be able to access this. So how I will access this? So I will be opening my package and I will create a report to access my MARC table from SLT underscore EC7 is the database user for this connection 004RR. So I will be opening my package. So where I have pre-configured all the I have free template how to access my secondary DB connection using select query. So I will be going to this package and I will go to the program. I have a program called OpenSQL secondary DB connection. So this is my program which is written with the template. So I will be able to take this snippet as well, code snippet as well, how to access secondary DB connection. So I will be using the same thing in my program as well. So if you see, first of all, I will be declaring this is the snippet which I have copied from my code snippet. So I will just copy it. As for now, I'll just comment this. So I will comment this and I will, if you see, I declared a DB connection. So type char 50 with my the HANA database connection. So if you say this is my, if you see, this is my HANA database connection. So I declared that. So I am selecting everything from mark table. If you see, this is my mark table. So into connect, I am using a syntax called connection to DB. So this DB is this DB which I am declaring it. So if you wanted to access HANA secondary DB connection in a select query, so we will use a syntax called connection and the DB name into table. So I'm using this mark MARC table. If you see, this is my table which I am using this table as uh, able to access from this system. Uh, user, we already seen the user will be SLT underscore EC7. So I written a select query and I selected everything from here. Can have a where condition as well. So I'm just uncommenting this where condition as well. So so I'm looping to this table and getting the results. So as of now, I'll keep this, uncomment this. So Control F3, I'm activating it. So now I will execute this. You see, I'm able to get the results from the DB connection. OpenSQL using a secondary DB connection. HANA is a secondary DB connection. So if I uncomment this, if I comment this and execute it, so clicking on F8. So see, I got the data, all the data from my secondary DB connection. So, to get to access data from a secondary DB connection, you will use syntax connection in your select query and your database name. So the DB user which has the table only can be accessed using the ABAP. So this is how you access your secondary DB connection. in OpenSQL. So next, coming to next topic, the tools to analyze potential functional and performance issues in a web program. So there are tools. If you have SAP HANA as a secondary database, or if you have as HANA as a database, there you should use some tools to check how your queries are performed well. So these performance tools and functional and performance in ABAP programs can be analyzed using tools such as Code Inspector and ABAP Test Cockpit. So to locate potential functional and performance issues, so you will be using Code Inspector and ABAP Test Cockpit. These are static code checks. That means that these checks which you are doing, which I am showing you now here, which are the static code checks. They are not runtime code checks. These code checks will give you the performance issues in your ABAP reports, function modules, or any transition if you create using module pool programming. So these will give you how much your select query is accessing the performance, how much performance it is affecting when you write a query. So tools such as Code Inspector, ABAP Test Cockpit, and ABAP is used for static code checks to measure and compare runtime consumption, how much time it took to execute a query at the runtime can be seen, can be visualized or analyzed using ABAP Trace and ABAP profiling perspective. So SCI and ATC are used for static code checks, and runtime consumption you will be able to check analyze using ABAP Trace, SAT transition. SCI is a transition for Code Inspector, ATC is a transition for ABAP Test Cockpit. So ABAP Trace is SAT is a transition for that. ABAP profiling perspective is same as ABAP Trace, which you will be able to analyze using in the ADT, ABAP development tools. So this ABAP profiling perspective is present only in ADT. It will give the hit list and all the other performance analyzing tools. So these are the analyzing tools uh, which are present to analyze your program's performance. So today we will discuss about Code Inspector and ABAP Talkspeak in this session. So 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 to know which of your ABAP code must be changed and to which of your ABAP code shall be optimized to ensure good performance, and which of your business processes have potential for SAP HANA so that you can speed up your those massively fast. So and how you would find all the ABAP code easily and to adapt them efficiently. So you will be able to analyze these things using these tool. So you might be doing a database migration or so when each DB has specific features and unique technical behavior. So these tools will help you to check which the potential and static and runtime analysis of your code. So how efficiently you are writing your code, and which part of your code is affecting the performance will be analyzed. So first we'll go to Code Inspector. So here I will be explaining you how to use Code Inspector in the system. So I'll go into system. So I'll just open any of the report. So the report which we have used here for the OpenSQL as a secondary DB connection, this report we will analyze this report with the SCI. So just system was not responding. We'll wait for the system to respond. So basically Code Inspector examines repository objects such as classes, functions, reports, DDK objects. It checks performance, it checks performance, security, syntax, usability, and other parameters it will check. Code Inspector is integrated into development workbench, and some checks are part of ATC. Some checks are part of ATC. So I'll be opening you logon. So I will give my credentials. So I'm just logging in. So it examines the DB access without index support. It examines SCI. So I will just open SCIT. So if you go to OpenSQL secondary DB, so if you need to do a check, so what you will do is if you open any report, so you just go to program and you do there is a menu called program at the top right corner, top left corner. So select the program and then click on check. So it will expand to a sub menu called code inspector. So it is showing performance checks, security checks, syntax checks, and user interface checks. When I expand the performance checks, if you see how many errors it has, how many warnings it has, how many it gives information as well. So if you see, I have one error in the performance checks. So I'm expanding this. So it is showing me error saying analysis of where condition for select. So error was they should without where condition you should not select a table which has a large amount of data. So I'm just selecting it. So if I wanted to go to the code, so I can go this. So which program it is affecting. So I can double click it. So when I double click this, I'm able to see. So at this point statement, I didn't use where condition. So if you see this marked table, so material table, plan data for material, this should be, if you go to technical settings of this table, so it is of size category 4. So if you have a large table, you should not use star, instead you should use where condition, you should filter your select query, so it affects the performance. So how we will, so the one remedy for this was to use a where condition so that it will improve the performance. So other thing was if suppose there is a situation where you were unable to write a you were not unable to write a where condition, you need all the details for a table which has a large amount of data, so you are unavoidable. So you should use select star. So if you do generally code inspectors, SCIs, ABAP test cockpits, all the performance tools like SCI, ATC, and SAT, all the performance tools will be analyzed by quality analyst. So when the coders develop their developments, the quality analyst analyze the performance. So when they run your report, but your select query compulsory needs a star, you need to select everything instead of where. So you should be avoided. So then what you will do was to when you run the code inspector to hide the, if you can go to information here. So if you are unable to remove the star and you remove where condition where, so you compulsory need to select everything, but it should be hidden from the code inspector. So you should, there is a sudo comment. If you see, the message can be hidden using called sudo comment. So when you hide this statement using this sudo comment ec underscore ca nowhere. So how I got was I took the information tab. So I'm just selecting this. So just copying this ec underscore. I'm going to this report. So with that error condition, so I will be editing this now. So what I will do is I will just paste this nowhere and I will activate it. So what I have done, I went to information and I selected the sudo comment and pasted on that line which is showing in the code inspector. Now if I run again, so SCI, if I run again the check, so code inspector checks, you see there are no errors. That means that if if you need to hide your performance issue, that means that it is mandatory to select everything instead of filtering your select query. In such cases, for every performance issue, there will be a sudo command provided. But please avoid this adding sudo command to every performance check or every error it gets to you. So it affects because with you indirectly hiding your performance check. So if needed you can fix it, if else if you are unable to write a where condition and you need to hide from the code inspector, for to suppress this statement from the inspection. So then only we should use a pseudo comment. So when you write a pseudo comment, better to write a comment here why you have written this pseudo comment. So that is a good practice to do for the efficient programming. So here SCI, so program, if you go to check SCI, so it will give DB access without index support. So if you are accessing a table with it doesn't have an index, like if you go to mark, so and if you go to technical settings, no, sorry, if you go to indexes, so there are certain indexes for this table. So if you have indexes and you are not using that index, DB access without index support, the table doesn't have index, then that is also a performance issue. Selects that bypasses the table buffer. So that means that if you have a select query and if you are using buffering for that, so buffering not allowed as of now for this table. So if you are using any buffering, so that type of select statement is bypassing table buffer, those statements also will be visible. So programs, not only programs, you can go to any table. Suppose I will be going to BUT 000 table, and I can go to BUT 000 display, and I can go to table and check. So for every table as well, you can check the code inspector. So as of now, you see this is SAP subject cannot be checked. So this cannot be checked. So if you have any G tables, you can check as well. Inconsistency in the table technical settings and its secondary indexes, and not optimized operations on internal table, insufficient argument passing. So these are some of the performance checks which you need to do careful. So there is one more tool called ABAP test cockpit ATC. So if you go open any report, suppose I'm opening the report for the same report again. So you can have a program, you can check ATC as well. So ABAP text cockpit. So when I click this ABAP text cockpit, so object passed without any findings. That means that there is no findings as well. So what I do was, so ABAP text cockpit as well returns the same results. So this is another tool which you can um, use for code inspector checks. So I will just comment this. I will use these things like select BUPA, single BUPA, so star. So I'm just activating. So activated. Now I will run the program. I will do the check for a ABAP text cockpit now. So if you see now, it is written analysis of where condition for BUPA table. So if I double click this object name, so I will get where my program is affecting. In a loop, I'm selecting from SNWD BUPA. So this is business partner table, sales order business partner table. So here it is affecting the performance because there is no word condition for this select query. So if we go to this SNWD ViewPA, if we go to technical settings of this table, so it is see size category is 6. It's very large table. So if you have very large table, it's not good practice to use select star and it's without a where condition. So you should filter your results. So there is from a program or from a table or from any function model, you can do check, and you can go to ABAP test cockpit or code inspector checks for static code analysis. So there is a transition specifically for code inspector. If you go to SCI, so if I will be going to transition called SCI, so I will be /n SCI. So if you go to this SCI transition, so SCI is the transition. So I will be going to SCI transition. Here I can do code inspector in 3 variants. One was I can check a variant here. So I can create a variant. So variant, if you see predefined variants also present. So perform star and click on F4. If you see, I can create a new variant or I can use an existing global variant. So there will be global variant and local variant as well. So when you click here, one will be global, one will be local. So for every inspection, object set and check variant. So now so for global variant in the sense which can be used by everybody, it will be transported from one system to other system. When you create a variant and it set it as a global, it can be transported from one system to other system. If you use it as a local, that means that it is local to this system as well. So I use it. This is a standard performance checklist. This is a standard variant, check variant. So I'm just displaying it. So when you display it, so if you see, it is checked with performance checks. So you can check any of the checks. So code inspector will check many checks like general checks, performance checks, security checks, syntax checks, some robust programming checks, and some dynamic tests and user interface, and many proxy setting checks are performed. So in this standard performance checklist is checked with performance checks. So with some of the checks, performance checks like analysis of where condition for select, analysis of where condition in update and delete. So in update and delete as well, if you don't have where condition, so it will also give you a performance check. Select statement that bypasses the buffer. That means that when you define a table with some buffering and you are ignoring that buffering and you are doing a select, then that statement results also will be appeared in this code inspector variant. So select statement with subsequent checks. So there should be sub-Apache checks as well. Low performance operations on internal table attribute checks also will be checked. Instance creation of baddies. So some of the performance checks was ticked and saved. So I can use this performance checklist. So this is some global variant. So I'll be copying this variant, and what I will be doing was, now I will be going to my report now, like back to my report now. So what I can do was, here I'll go to program and then go to check. I'll go to ABAP test cockpit with, so I can give with ABAP test cockpit with. So if I go to options, I'll be able to give here default any variant, code inspector variant which I have created using SCI. I can give that. So default, it is, there is a variant will be default selector. So I can give performance checklist as well. So I can give and click on, as soon as when I click on this, I can click on execute checks. So when I do execute checks, it will return me the all the errors or the where conditions, so which the performance is affected. So I got this error. So this is another way to use the check variant. So how we will be using the check variant first, we'll go to program, check, and ABAP test cockpit with. So before we used this, now we are using ABAP test cockpit with. So so now I'll be going to SCI again. So here, this check variant, you can create a check variant as well. Like if I wanted to create some jet perform underscore HANA. So some variant I need to create a, now before you have seen local, if I wanted to give local, it won't be transported. It's only for you, or you are the owner of this. If you give it as a global for all users, it will be used and it can be transported. So I may be creating this. So I can check some of the performance like general checks, performance checks. I can do some checks. So if I want to do some robust programming, I can be select this and click on save. So when I save this, so if you see, it is showing that attributes are not complete. So where condition was not proper. So for robust programming, so you should expand this and we should go to empty unused procedures. So if I double click this, so we should give the attributes of these attributes also for this check. So if you don't give attributes, then it will throw error. So for this empty use, and if I do this, I have to give some text key. So some key I should give this. So then only it will allow me to save. So if I uncheck this, so if I select this, suppose complete where condition is select. So I have to give some checks. So I'll give this and click on OK. So click on save. So if you see, don't forget to check the attributes when you say when you're creating the when you're creating a variant. So when you can check whichever check you needed, but when you're saving, if it throws an error, so don't forget that you need to give the attributes as well for that check. So if you give the attributes, then only it will be able to create a variant for you. So now this variant can be used in the ABAP test cockpit, which I have shown you in the previously I have shown you how to do that. So program, same way, the process is same. So ABAP test cockpit with. So here you will go to options and you will be giving the variant and click on execute. So enter global inspection to check variant. So here this is possible only with the global variant. Since we have created the local, it is not possible. So when you create a global, it can be used by any user. So this is about check variant. So now we will be creating object set as well. So you can create an object set as well. So if you wanted to create an object set, suppose, so I will go here. So I will be using this creating object set. So object set is nothing but to control the time. You can set some of the objects like a transition, a package, a so a complete package you can be given at this object set, at this variant. So object set, you can set a flag here, consist of one or more objects basically. To create an object set, we'll use here from this object set. Now I have selected as a global, so I will use again jet per HANA same variant. So I'll be creating this object set. So here we can give it a package. You can give a package, entire package can be given here. So suppose database underscore HANA. So I give an entire package, and then I will be able to save this. See, I am able to save this. So entire objects can be checked one at a time instead of report by report. So I can, so entire objects. So I will be, and then there is inspection here. So I can use the variant inspection. Just I will display it again. So just a minute. So you can give a soft, when I display it, you can give a component ID. So you can give a package, you can give original system, you can give person responsible. So one at a time for entire person, you can inspect the objects. So so this is how you do it for you will create an object set here. So you will assign this object set to at the inspection level. So inspection uh, in inspection there will be a variant to give the field to give object set or the check variant. So I'll be creating here inspection again. So I'm just creating an inspection here. So if you see here, you can give for any request task, you can give for an object set. So if you are able to give for an object set, so I will be giving this object set which I have created here. So you can give for the request also, you can give for the check variant also. If you wanted to give for the check variant, you give for the check variant also. So for a check variant and for a prescribed object set does not exist. Maybe I would have given some other name. So I will be giving as of now for the check variant, and I will be saving this, specify an object set. So object set is also mandatory for this. So I think I have given wrong. So I will just close. So HANA, if I will display it. So this is there, jet test per HANA. So Control C. So I will be creating here is with the object set and the check variant. So this is global. So I'm gluing is global. Click on save. If you see, so I given one global and local variant, and I can execute it as well. So execute, or I can execute it with servers as well. So there are two difference here. So final, what this inspection do is it will do for an object set, it will do for an variant. So so inspection for a specific object set, and for a variant it will check for everything. So one at a time, if you wanted to check, you will do that, you will be able to do that here. So we'll assign the object set and check variant, and will click on execute. When you click on execute, it will analyze the entire package set of objects and set of programs which you have assigned the variant. So it's analyzing here. If you see here, so it's taking time to inspect. So inspection combines a check variant and an object set. So when executed, actually it applies the checks of the selected check variant to all appropriate objects in the object set. So for the corresponding variant, what the performance analyze tools you have checked here will be performed to all the objects in this object set. So every performance check which you have performed here will be applied to this object set as well. So inspection carried out successfully here. So we can display that. So if we say as soon as when it is executed successfully, so it is showing a green. green status here. So I'm just displaying it, the inspection sheet. So if you see the performance checks, errors was 21 performance. So analyze a where condition of a select. So if you see this is also there are two um, errors for analysis of where condition for select. So if you see errors was 2 versus code. So if you see this is the program where I didn't use select no where condition. I can double click here and I can check. So this is where I didn't use a where condition here. So this is another where we select which I didn't use a where. These are the two errors. So if I go see here, I have used three select statement with delete statement. Select for all entries class can be transformed. So if I show this, there are errors here. That means that can be joined with a select. So when you use a select for all entries, it is showing me that can be joined with an select. So instead of joins, it is asking me to use a join instead of select for all entries. If I it is telling me to use a, if you see this in this program, I have used a join condition. So I have to check whether why this join condition is affecting me performance. That means that I can use select for all entries as well with some checks. So joins can be replaced with select for all entries. So if you see other errors like loops across modularization, that means that I have used loops in a loop, selects in a loop, database access inside the loop. So we should not use database access inside the loop like insert, update, delete inside a loop. So if I go inside this, I can see I have used a call function in this include in this. So double click one of them. I used a function model inside a loop and I used a select inside a loop. So that's also a performance for every loop this function model will affect. So you have to check so how much if it is necessary, then if you are able to use this function model outside, you will be able to, or if you are able to get this function model out and do some processing, then we should do that outside the loop. So for the better performance, if you see I have used a select statement as well inside a loop. So that is also affecting the performance for me. So and other errors which I got was so mostly these. So there are some warnings as well for me. So performance checks warnings as well. So there are some information as well. So general checks. So this is how it affects. You can do a code inspection for entire objects for your package. So for this variant. So so in a brief, check variant helps you to check which performance check which checks you need to perform for any report or function model. You would decide that performance checks in check variant. Object set allow you to view entire package. Set of objects can be grouped here. So inspection, what it does was, so it will ask for you which variant I should perform on which set of objects, and how we will execute that. So there's a execute button where you will be executing it. So I'm just so there is an option of executing it within the server. So if I double click, if I give 2 and if I create again, so if initially it is in red, so what I will do is I will give again check variant. So I'll give it as a global. So there are two types of executes you can do. One is execute normal execution. You can execute with on local server in single process. So you can give local server or you can give server group as well. Say in background processing. So if you wanted to local server in a single process instead of parallel processing, so you can execute that as well in a single process. So if it is, you see it saved inspection was carried out successfully in a single process. So you can display it. So it results the same. So you can do it in a two ways. You can do the execution when you do inspection. One is normal execution. Other one was execution on a server, local server in a single process. So you can display the results as well. You can do we can view the inspection results. So you can create and do anonymous inspection here. So this is how the SEI works for your code inspector checks. So it works for the code inspector works for select statement that bypasses the table buffer and if you use any select statement in on a buffered table. So select on a buffered table with a join. So if you use a select table buffered table with a join and select if you use select single record buffering and you use a if you use select on a single record buffering table without explicit select single. If you use a buffering single record buffering, then you should use a select single and select with a subquery, select with aggregate functions, select distinct, select group by, and where condition does not fully specify key. So these type of statements will be executed in the performance. So analysis of where condition with appropriate indexes. So so these things will be shown in SCI and ABAP test cockpit. So both in SCI and ABAP test cockpit, you will be able to see this type of code inspector checks. So so here, if I go to next, so code inspector and ABAP text cockpit I have discussed here. So both are used for static code checks. So static code checks, and these are responsible for identifying the performance analysis at static programming. So if you wanted to see the checks of runtime consumption, then we will go for ABAP trace and ABAP profiling perspective. So these ABAP trace and ABAP profiling perspective are used for runtime consumption. So this runtime consumption. Uh, so ABAP trace is used for runtime consumption. ABAP profiling perspective will be used for um, also runtime conduction, but this is available only in it is available only in ADT ABAP development tools. So these next ABAP trace, ABAP profiling perspective, and other analysis tools we will be discussing in the next session. Thank you.